Well, hey there, and thank you so much for joining this webinar on leading with happiness, which I think is such an important topic. We have about half an hour to cover this, and we have a lot to get through. So let's get right to it. Let's get right into the action. Just a few practical details before I start for real. First of all, if you have any questions at all, ask me anything on Twitter. You can tweet at my Twitter handle, Alex Kjolf. And at the end, I'll leave about 5 minutes at the end for a question and comments roundup. So tweet any questions you have at my Twitter handle, Alex Kjolf. Also, if you want these slides, we'll make them available to you right away, right after the session. We're going to send out an email to everybody who's subscribed and to the webinar, join the webinar, and we'll make sure you get the slides. Just for those of you who have no idea who the heck I am, and I'm sure that's all of you, very briefly, this is me. I've been making people happy at work for 11 years, ever since 2003. This is my book, Happy Hours 9 to 5, which is about being happy at work and creating happy workplaces. These are some of our clients around the world where we do speeches, workshops, presentations, and these are the 33 countries we've been to so far to make people happier at work. And if there's one thing we have learned in that time, it is that the #1 factor that makes people happy or unhappy at work is the leadership, okay? It's your immediate manager, it's the executives, it's the leadership in the company. It's the #1 factor that determines whether or not people are happy or unhappy at work. I mean, as an employee, there are many, many things you can do yourself to create happiness or unhappiness, but more important than that is the leadership. Just one study, one very, very quick study to back this up. From Gallup, they say that managers account for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement scores across business units. There's a source for that in the slide. So there is no doubt at all that management has a huge effect on happiness inside of an organization. And bad management especially can have a terribly bad effect on people. It can cause fear and frustration. It can cause a lot of stress. There was actually there was a Danish study that came out earlier this year that showed that stress in the workplace is not really caused by being too busy or having too many tasks. Stress in the workplace is mostly caused by bad management, according to this one study. We know that bad management can affect people's health. It can ruin your health, and also it can ruin your motivation. So the effects of bad management can be really, really bad, and something that affects people terribly. And then you can go, well, so what? Who cares if people are happy at work? In the famous words of the economist Milton Friedman, you know, the business of business is business. Who cares if you're happy? We just want you to do your job. You can be happy in your free time. And I say it's time to change that. And I propose a new maxim, a new motto, which is that the business of business is happiness. Okay, and I propose a new kind of management, a new kind of leadership that has at its core, as its core purpose, has happiness for several different groups of people. And I think a fantastic proponent of this kind of management, this kind of leadership is a good example is Richard Branson, who has said that, you know, more than anything else, fun is the secret of Virgin's success. And I think this kind of leadership would promote happiness for, you know, 4 major groups. First of all, for the leader, him or herself, okay? If you want your employees and your clients and so on to be happy, I think you have to start with yourself. I don't think you can give something to others that you don't possess yourself. And there's no doubt in my mind that a miserable manager is likely to make everyone around them equally miserable. So a really good place to start for a manager who's interested in happiness, who believes in happiness, is to start with yourself and see, how can I become happy at work? How can I be motivated, engaged, and excited to go to work most days? And then, of course, it's about happiness for the employees, having happy employees. And I do believe that great managers more than anything else, are good at making their employees happy at work. But it doesn't stop there. It's also about the happiness of the clients. So great managers, the manager of the future, would really be invested in having happy clients. Maybe it's not about selling as much as you can. Maybe it's not really about wringing every single dollar out of your customers. Maybe it's actually more about making sure that your clients and customers are happy with the products or the services you provide. And interestingly, of course, if they are happy, they're more likely to come back and spend more money with you. But there's a really important shift in focus from, you know, seeing them as just, you know, the way you make money, the people who pay you, to actually wanting to make your clients happy. And finally, the broader community. This can be the local community, the country, the world, the business community you're in. What if you also wanted people around you to be happy? It's not about, you know, being happy, creating happiness for the company and the clients, but also somehow it's about leaving the world a better place because of your company, because of your work, because of your efforts. And I think that is the focus of leadership in the future. That is the new kind of leadership that we're looking for, is leadership that is focused on creating this happiness. And I'm not saying that we're doing this to be idealistic or naive or socialist or anything like that. I actually believe that this kind of happiness has real, concrete business value. And that if you can, as a leader, if you can create this kind of happiness for these 4 groups, then it will actually create business value. It will actually make your company more successful and more profitable. Let's go through each of those 4 and see how those create business value. First of all, we know from a lot of studies that happy leaders make better decisions. Given 2 choices, a happy leader is more likely to make the right choice, the better decision. We know that happy leaders energize their employees, make them more energized, engaged, and motivated. So it has direct influence on the performance of your employees. We know that happy leaders prioritize better. Given scarce resources, they're better able to prioritize those resources and use them in an optimal way. And we also know that this is so clear in the research, happy leaders make their workers happy, their employees happy. This is for many, many reasons, but also in part it's because of emotional contagion. And emotional contagion is the phenomenon that says that when you're with people who experience a certain emotion, you experience the same emotion. So if you're with happy people, you become happier. If you're with angry people, you become angrier. So yeah, so there's little doubt in my mind that happy leaders actually create business value. What about the employees? Well, you saw that happy leaders create happy employees. Well, we know from the research that happy employees are more productive. They get more work done. We know that happy employees are more creative. This is from the excellent research by Teresa Amabile, which is described in her excellent book called The Progress Principle, where she shows that people who are in a good mood have more and better ideas. We know that happy employees are less sick and have lower absenteeism rates. We know that happy employees stay longer with the company and have lower employee turnover. And we also know that happy employees do a better job, and therefore they make the customers happy. So again, there's little doubt that happy employees have very specific business value. What about happy customers? Well, this almost goes without saying, right? But if your work, your products, your services make your customers happy, those customers are more likely to return. They will be more loyal to you, to your company, to your product. They will spend more money, spend more of their discretionary income with your company, and they will recommend you more to their friends and family. If you want to read a great book on that, I highly recommend the book called The Service Profit Chain, which is very, very much about this. So again, little doubt that happy customers create very specific business value. And finally, what about the community? Creating a better world, a better local community, but then maybe even a better focus on the environment or whatever. It may be a little harder to see the business value in that, but at the very least, It gives you the satisfaction of knowing that your company, the work you do, has a net positive effect on the world, on the community, and that will give your work meaning and purpose. I think a great example of a company who has done this is Patagonia, who make ski wear, swimwear, mountain climbing gear, outdoor wear, that kind of thing. And they have something called 1% for the planet, where every year they will donate 1% of turnover or 10% of 10% of profits, whichever is larger. They will donate that to environmental causes and charities. They also let their employees take paid time off to work for environmental charities and environmental projects around the world. So this is a great example of how a community can actually care, a company can actually care for the community and actually make sure that they have a positive net impact in the world. And this, again, is part of the happiness. It's those four areas. It's the leader, him or herself, employees, clients, and then community. Let me go back to the slides here. There we are. So, and again, many studies confirm that happy companies make more money. Here's just one slide that shows that on stock rates, even on the stock price, you can see the average performance of the American stock market in the bottom two graphs. And the red graph is the performance of the stock market as the stock price for the 100 best workplaces in the US. And you can see that they clearly outperform the less happy companies. One of my favorite cases of this, and a company that definitely does all of this and has done it for a long time, is Southwest Airlines, who are a great workplace. And they have basically said that their #1 priority is the happiness of their employees. They want their employees to be happy at work, because when the employees are happy, they make the clients happy. The clients are the customers, the passengers are the second priority. And when the customers are happy, the customers come back, and then they make the investors happy. The investors are the third priority. And they are definitely a happy workplace. And interestingly, they're the only large workplace in the world that has had a profit every single year for the last 40 years. They've been around for 45 years. In an industry where other companies lose billions year after year, they make money. They have had one quarter where they lost money, and that was the quarter where 9/11 was. Apart from that, they've been profitable every single quarter in a really tough industry. And if you ask them, why is that? They'll say, well, that's why. We have happy employees. That gives us happy customers. That makes the investors happy. And by the way, they also do a lot of charity work. They also are heavily invested in the local communities where they fly to create better local communities and make people around them happy as well. And I think that is, again, is a fantastic case of happiness at work. I've had the chance to fly on Southwest Airlines myself once, and it was a really good experience. Very, very different from traditional airlines, which are, it's all very rigid and formalized, and you know pretty much in advance what everybody's going to say, how they're going to greet you on the plane. Not so on Southwest Airlines, where everybody just seemed friendly and open and nice and fun and cheerful and playful. Just to give you one example, where we were flying from Vegas to Buffalo, and 20 minutes before we land, the flight attendant grabs the headset and she goes, handset, and she goes, okay, there are 20 minutes until we land in Buffalo. It's time to do a little exercise. What? Exercise? And she goes, okay, everybody put up your right hand. And everybody on the plane did. She goes, everybody put up your left hand. Now stretch up, and now put your hands into your seat back pockets and grab any trash you find there, bring it out into the aisle, and I'll come collect it. And it's a silly little thing. It actually made people smile. It made everybody a little happier. And things like that actually made flying a good experience that day. So those are some great examples of companies that actually do this. There are many, many others. Right, back to the slides. There we go. So what is it that makes us happy at work? And this was actually the topic of our last webinar, and we can share the video from that. The two main things that make us happy at work that we need to focus on are results and relationships. Results is about doing a good job, being recognized for the work you do, knowing that what you do is meaningful. And relationships is about being valued as a person. So you have a good relationship with your coworkers, with your manager, with your employees. You're the manager. Maybe even a good relationship with clients and customers can also make a difference. And those are the two main factors that make us happy at work. And if you're a manager, that's what you need to create for yourself. You know, make sure that you have great results, or you're doing a good job, and also that you have great relationships with your, you know, your manager peers, with your employees, with your manager, and so on. It's also what you must help create for your employees. You must make sure as a manager that each and every one of your employees has everything they need to create great results and great relationships. And you must help them see the value of what they do. Help every single employee do a great job, and help them know that they do a great job. And as a manager, you must create great relationships with your employees and create a great mood inside your team, so people have great relationships with each other. That is where we need to focus. Interestingly, you can even take results from relationships to the clients. If your product, if your service helps your customers get great results, so it makes some aspect of their lives more efficient, better, faster, cheaper, whatever, and if you can create a great relationship with your customers, so they know you as a person, they feel like they have a great relationship with you as a person or as a company, that will make the clients happy, and that will make them more likely to come back and stay customers with you. So you can even extend that results and relationships to the customers. Interestingly speaking, so results and relationships are really important for managers, but that is really hard. It's really hard, and there's some very interesting neurological research into why. Here are the results of a very fascinating study I found that said that if a leader was seen as being very strong on results only, the chance of that leader being seen as a great leader was 14%. So 14% of the employees felt those kinds of leaders were great leaders. If a leader was strong on social skills, relationships, he or she was seen as a great leader 12% of the time. But leaders who were strong in both results focused and in social skills were seen as great leaders 72% of the time. But, and here's the kicker, less than 1% of leaders were rated high on both goal focus and social skills. Less than 1% of leaders are good at both results and relationships. And there's a reason why. And this is from neurological research that shows that the mind sort of focuses as a seesaw, as a teeter-totter, and there are two different areas of the brain. One is responsible for results-oriented thinking, and the other one is responsible for relationship-oriented thinking. And when one is active, it suppresses the other. So doing both, being good at both, is actually really, really hard. And one of the points they make in this article that we're quoting from here is that organizations consistently promote and value and reward leaders who are good at results, and we need to change that. We need leaders who are good at both, which is really hard. So my claim is actually that the leader of the future is awesome at relationships. If you want me to choose, what would I rather? A leader who is only results focused or a leader who's only relationship focused? I would say none of those are very good. But a leader who's maybe 30% results focused and 70% relationship focused, I think those are the best leaders, because they can actually lead people. They can actually become great leaders. A good example of that is Lars Kolindt, who's the most famous Danish business leader. He led the turnaround of a hearing aid company called Oticon back in the 90s. World famous business case. And I interviewed him for one of my books, and I asked him, so Lars, what is your most important skill as a leader? And says, my most important skill as a leader is that I can understand the different needs of different people. And that is very much about relationships. That is about being able to relate to other people so you can actually lead them better and more effectively. And I think that is the chief skill, most important skill for the leader of the future: relationship orientation. This is good. Again, a good time to remind you that if you want to ask me anything, tweet at my Twitter handle, Alex Kjeld. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. What I want to go into now very briefly, so how do you do this? And how do you create a happy organization? You do that on 2 levels. You do that on the organizational level. So you know the big picture, the strategy, vision, mission, processes, all of that. But you also do it on the individual day-to-day level. And I just want to very briefly cover some ways you can do that in each of those 2 levels. 5 tips in each of those 2 levels, and then we'll go to questions. So on the organizational level, what are some things you can do? Well, you can promote and train leaders for happiness. So instead of promoting the best professional, the best software developer to lead the software development team, promote the one who can make others happy. Promote those leaders who have those relationship skills and can actually make their employees happy. This is not about promoting the happiest person. This is actually about promoting the person who can make others happy. Those are not the same thing necessarily. And also train leaders for happiness. A lot of these skills are not innate. These are actually something people need to learn. And by the way, in many cases, there are a lot of things people need to unlearn. And you can actually train leaders to make themselves and others happy. This is a large part of what we do in our work. Also, reward leaders for happiness. In many organizations, leaders get bonuses, and in most organizations, those bonuses are based only on results, right? If your organization achieves its sales goals, you will get this bonus. What about rewarding leaders for having happy employees? Reward those leaders, give them a bonus, those leaders who are very good at creating a happy, well-performing team where people just love working. I think that's a great idea. Also, stop bad managers. In a lot of organizations, there are bad managers, and they're allowed to continue working as managers for ages. That needs to stop. I think a great case is from this book. I highly recommend this book called Maverick. And this is from a company in Brazil called Semco, where employees rate their managers twice a year on a number of different criteria. And every single manager ends up with a rating from 0 to 100. And then those ratings are published inside the company for everyone to see. And that puts enormous pressure on bad managers to improve. In many organizations, bad managers are allowed to continue to be bad managers for ages. I think this is a great example. By the way, read this book. This book is fantastic. And finally, help employees solve problems, put systems in place that help address the problems and frustrations that the employees are seeing. This is a great case from a company I visited in Cape Town, South Africa, a company called Quirk, where they use a board like this where all employees can post whatever problems and frustrations and annoyances they're facing, and that people can propose solutions, and the management can say, here's what we're going to do. Great example of how to solve problems. So those are some, oh, and by the way, create meaning and purpose. Make sure that your organization actually has a larger purpose than just profits, because profits are essentially meaningless. And what is much more motivating, what is much more interesting, is knowing that the work we do has some kind of net positive effect in the world. So those were some things you can do on the organizational level. On the individual level, day-to-day basis, how you treat your employees has a massive effect. And some very simple tools that we like to recommend are these 5 ones. Take 5. Take 5 is about taking 5 minutes with one of your employees every single day without an agenda. Every single day you go up to one of your employees and you go, hey, what's up? And you just take a moment to reconnect with that person, recreate the relationship, hear whatever problems or frustration that person's facing, and just showing that you have time for them. This can be, so you do John on Mondays, and you go to Lisa on Tuesdays, and you go on to the next employee, and then back to John. And every day you just take 5 minutes with one of your employees. Great chance to connect, great chance to recreate the relationship. Very, very simple thing is saying good morning. Just make sure that you actually say a friendly, cheerful, genuine good morning to your employees in the morning. This is something they'll notice, and especially something they'll notice if you don't. Praise and recognition. Make sure that you actually notice the work your employees do and praise them for it whenever it's warranted. Whenever they do good work, tell them that they've done great work. This is such a simple thing to do, but highly, highly effective. Random acts of workplace kindness. Do something nice for your employees once in a while, just out of the blue. You know, bring somebody a cup of coffee without them asking. Tiny little things can actually make a very, very big difference. And finally, celebrate success. If something goes well in your team, celebrate somehow. It doesn't need to be big. Just, you know, make sure that you're constantly looking at and focusing on the things that your employees are doing well. Of course, things don't always go well. One of my favorite kinds of ice cream is Ben & Jerry's. And what you're looking at in this slide is the Ben & Jerry's flavor graveyard. Every time they have to, you know, pull a flavor out of the market because it failed completely and nobody wanted to buy it, they bury it in this flavor graveyard. And this just shows that they're not embarrassed to have made a mistake, you know, to have created a kind of ice cream that nobody wanted. They're actually proud that they make mistakes, and they celebrate their mistakes. I would say that bad managers punish mistakes and make their employees afraid to try anything new, and good managers celebrate mistakes and show their employees that it's okay to try something new as long as you learn from your mistakes. And finally, I just want to mention one more aspect of all of this. So these are some things you can do. But one more aspect of this is that, you know, one thing is that creating a happy workplace, being a good manager who makes people around you happy is good for business. Like I said, it has specific business value. But beyond that, there's also an ethical aspect to this. And I've often wondered that, you know, if I'm the manager and I go up to one of my employees and I punch him in the face, I'll be led away by the cops, I'll be put in jail, and I'll deserve it. But if I'm a horrible manager who, you know, creates frustration and fear and stress, and it ruins my employees' careers and their private lives and their relationships and their marriages, what consequences will I face? Well, in a lot of organizations, I'll face no negative consequences. I might even get promoted for that kind of behavior. And that is just wrong, because the mental and physical consequences of bad management can be way worse than a physical attack, than a punch in the face. So beyond the fact that bad management is bad for business, it's also ethically and morally wrong. We should never do it, and we should never put up with it. Good management is good for business and is good for people. So with that being said, I will now look at my Twitter stream and see if there are any questions. There's a great question from Erik Østergaard here. Let me just get out of the slides real quick. There, who says, how can you start doing this? It's a tough cultural change to many mature companies. Is it hard to make happen? Oh yeah, if you have an entrenched culture of bad management, this is really, really hard. And interestingly, some companies do turn around when they're facing deep, deep crises. I visited a company in their headquarters are in Denver, in Colorado, and called DaVita. Big company, and they were a very, very unhappy company. They were also under investigation for fraud, and they were also almost bankrupt, this close to going into Chapter 11. And that crisis actually led them to change their culture, to introduce much better management, to actually become a happy workplace. So for some companies, that's actually something you need. You know, you need that crisis. You need to look that right in the eyes. To be able to do the change. In some cases, it's about getting a CEO with the right vision, with the right mindset, a CEO with the right values, and that can help turn a company around. Is it easy? Oh no. Is it necessary? Oh yes. Let's see if there are any other. I've been told that those are all the questions we had. And a lot of positive comments, and thank you for those. Awesome. Let's wrap this up. I have a few more slides. Just wanted to show you real quick. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us for this webinar. I hope you got something out of it. We're going to send out the slides right away, so you have those. I just want to mention one really quick project that we just launched yesterday, which is International Quit Your Crappy Job Day. Because way too many people are actually stuck in jobs they hate. They're stuck in bad workplaces. They're stuck with bad managers. And we want more of those people to quit. So that's why we created a website called internationalquityourcrappyjobday.com. And you can actually go on there, and there are a lot of resources that you can use to consider if maybe quitting is the right option for you. There's even a test you can take, and a lot of articles and cool stories to read. So if you're miserable at work, or you know somebody who's miserable at work, then maybe this website will have some interesting resources for you. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day, and stay happy at work.